This
Presentation.
conference will now be recorded.
So everybody is hearing my voice clear? Hello? Hello, Kurşat, do you hear me? Okay. So you see the screen? So dear friends, do you see the screen now? Everything is okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I am starting. Okay, today we are here in order to make our presentation webinar for the Small Business Development Center for Young Entrepreneurs project. I am the representative of the Uşak Chamber of Commerce. My name is Ahmet Bülbül. We are responsible for the Module 8, which is the name Export and Relationship Manager. I'm going to try to tell you about our module, and I'm going to give all informations. And I'm trying to keep this presentation not too much. So we are going to evaluate this export and relationship manager in our module in under 12 main title. Our main titles are foreign trade elements, basic foreign trade, basic concepts for foreign trade, qualifications for foreign trade manager and staff, foreign trade roadmap, pricing strategies for export, foreign trade documents, payment methods, types of delivery, contract preparations, competitive intelligence and target markets, international free trade agreements, and finally, we will tell you some cases, good cases and bad cases as the good practices and the bad practices. I just want to give you a little bit abstract about the module. As you know, today, most of companies and entrepreneurs in the world, even they are big companies or the small and medium companies, they require to export goods and services. So, thanks to the export, they can reach lots of customers and high standards in international markets. So, internal markets are not enough for the companies at this moment in order to make high profits and to reach international markets. So that is why exporting is very, very vital and essential issue today's business area. So in our modules, of course, we cannot elaborate and tell every details in this module. So in order to make a little bit short module, we separated our module into four main stages. So these are foreign trade elements, competitive intelligence and target markets, international free trade agreements, and cases. So we will tell you the more information based on these four main elements. Let's begin from the first title. What are the foreign trade elements? Now imagine you are the owner of the company and you have extremely high quality products. I'm sorry. and you need to make export. So what kind of things you have to know? So in order to make an export, you need to know basic foreign trade elements. Let's start these basic trade articles. In order to achieve these targets, you need to know first what is importing and exporting. So importing is goods and services of foreign origin that imports bring to a country. So in order to make import, you need to buy some things from outside of your country. So exporting is the extremely opposite of this title. Exporting is goods or services to sell any other country. And most of people are asking us how can I be an exporter? So who can be exporter? Our answer is no one is born as an exporter, and not everyone can make export. So that means everybody in the world can make export. But the important thing, you should know some steps and you should be ready legally in your country to make an export, to make export. So let's criticize that kind of articles that how can you be an exporter? So the first important thing to be an exporter is you have to be a legal taxpayer. If you don't pay tax, you cannot be an exporter. And there might be some additional official and documental preparations. So it depends on the country, but I want to give you information about our country, Turkey. In Turkey, first you should register your company, even it's the private or limited or incorporated company. And then you need to become a member of any exporter association. As far as we know, there are 19 or 16 exporter associations in Turkey, and every company has to be registered on one of these exporter associations. And finally, you need to find and sign an agreement with customs consultant, because these guys are helping you and are arranging your export procedures in the official areas like the ports, like airports, etc. So you need to make a consulting contract with that kind of company. And then you can start your export. So moreover, of course, these are not only documents and needings in order to start export. So it depends on your country. So you need to check your legal status. You need to check how can you be an exporter in your country. So these samples are from Turkey. Okay, let's continue. Let's look at what types of exports in the world. So in our checklist, as far as we recognize, there are 12 kind of export definitions. So I just want to shortly tell you these export styles. First is unconditional export. Second is electronic export. This is most important export style for me because the world is becoming more digital day by day, and the electronic export has been always rising day by day in the world. And the third one is pre-approved export. Fourth the goods related to the registration. Fifth, credit export. Sixth, consignment export. Seven, export of imported goods. 8, free zone export. 9, export by commercial rental. 10, export to be performed through clearing or connected processing. 11, no volute export, so that means free export. And the last one is transit trading or re-export. These are the important export types that company use these export types always regarding to its business type with another country. So as I told you, for us or for me, the important two export styles, the first one and the second one. Unconditional export is, this is the simple export that you put your goods into the container and then they are loading to ship or truck and then they are going throughout the country. So these are the standard export, conventional export. So, and the second one is electronic export. This is like, Alibaba.com or Amazon.com, that kind of exportings are electronic export. So I suggest you to pay attention to these two main export styles. Okay, let's continue for our another title. Yes, we said everybody can be exporter, but of course you need to carry some properties and qualifications. So when we check the most vital qualifications that foreign trade personnel has to be, these are four main properties. The first is language skill. Yes, even you don't speak English, you can make foreign trade. But this is important. If you want to simultaneously continue to your export, you need to speak English, or your staff need to speak English, because once a time it's going to be a conflict, and then you have to speak English in order to solve this problem. Of course, if you are working with China, you need to speak China. If you are working with Russia, it's better if you speak Russian. You don't have to, but it has got big advantages. And the second important thing is logistic and financial management. Export is not only marketing and sales, but also you need to control your operations. Logistic management and financial management are very important in this operation management title, because you need to check the time, you need to check the costs. There are lots of another parameters that you have to check while you are doing export. Like, you need to arrange your exporting products in your factory or in your warehouse or in the port. And also you need to deal with its packagings. I mean, are you going to put your goods onto the pallets, or you will use in boxes? So what kind of packaging systems you are going to use, or your customer asks for? And the financial issues, you need to calculate your cost, you need to calculate your profits, you need to also concern about foreign money exchange. Like, let me give you an example. We are in Turkey and we are using Turkish liras. So when I want to export to European Union, I need to control the money amount in euros. So if you do not check euro and Turkish lira rate in your country, that means you can have some profits or not. So you need to be careful on these financial issues also. And another important thing for export is determination and sustainability. Statistics shows us, like in Turkey, 60 or 65% of the first-time exporters, do not continue their export in next years. So that shows export needs to be sustainable. So you need to create your strategy for a long-time exporter. So one time or two times export is not good. You need to you need to prepare your company and yourself to be a long-time exporter. And also the determination. You have to determine, as I told you before, what kind of packaging you will use, which prices you will give. You have to be a good decision maker. You will first decide, and then you will need to try a long-term exporter. And the final qualification that foreign trade manager has to have is empathy and interdisciplinary. So what is empathy? I mean, of course, we are the companies, but in another side, we are the people. We are human beings. So we need to understand our opponents, and we need to understand our customers' needing. For example, if you are in Japan and if you shake your head, that means in Japanese country, no. But in Turkey or in another countries, that means yes. So this kind of behaviors and these differences are very important between the country relations. So I suggest you to understand your customer and their country, and then try to behave in the limits and in the behaviors of this company. And also interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is a kind of work that you need to concern about everything at the same time, and you need to be careful the connections between these qualifications. I mean, in the first sentences, I told you that you need to control your logistic, you need to control your finance, you need to try to be a long-term exporter, blah, blah, blah. So this is what interdisciplinary means. You have to control all issues and at the same time from the center, and then you need to be careful for all these issues. Okay, let's continue our another title. Let's create an export map. This scene is telling you how to be an exporter from the start to the beginning. So first of all, a company needs to determine which products they can export. Let's say you are producing tea, coffee, and some other beverage. So if you want to make export tea to China, it is really hard because Chinese has got their own tea, and you need to determine the product exactly what you can export to China. Or your customers are asking for coffee, but you do not produce coffee. So that means you cannot export coffee. So this is what we want to emphasize. So first, you need to decide which product are you going to export. Another is assignation of target markets. This is one of the most important issues in export because you can produce the most valuable and the most important product in the world. So if you cannot find your market, if you cannot find your customers, that means nothing. So you have to work on these target markets, and then you have to decide your target countries or your target markets. So in our module, we are going to explain you how you can do this too. The third important thing is searching for customers and opponents. Okay, you assign your country, you find your target country, and then next step to hit the bull on 12. I mean, you need to find your customers. And also, if you know about your opponents, that will be much more advantage for you, because that means you can know your enemy and you can know their products, and that gives you much more luck and much more advantages in order to fight these enemies. I mean, in order to give a race with these other companies. And finally, after you had done with these 3 steps, you need to create an export strategy. So, so what is export strategy? You should you should decide your export way of looking. Why this is important? For example, once upon a time, we had an experience like this, and a company from the United Arab Emirates tells us that I won't export any material to Israel. So I know this is subjective, but this looks like a strategy of this company. Or you should choose one of these export styles. I mean, if you are want to make your export with electronic commerce, you need to create a website, and you need to make some banking and cargo shipment arrangements. So you need to give some advertisements, blah, blah, blah. But if you are thinking to be a standard exporter, like you will find your customer and then you will put your products into containers and then you will send them. So that means that you need to find a good logistic company, and you need to find a good transporting company. So these are very important elements in order to find your export strategy. And also the price is important, because some of companies can sell the goods with limited profit, but some of them can want to make a big profits. So you also need to decide what kind of profit you expect. And then you need to check these issues, and then you create your export strategy. And our other title is registering your trademark. Lots of companies are not taking important on this matter, because they mostly forget to register their trademark. So this is very important, I think, because if you don't register your trademark, somebody else one day they can copy your old products and then your trademark. And then if you don't register your trade in your country and also in another countries, you cannot claim anything. Yeah, maybe you can claim, but it takes long time. You need to go to justice, you need to search for laws, you need to find lawyers, blah blah blah. So our suggestion for you is, first, please make your trademark registered in your country. Like Uşak Chamber of Commerce, like us, some of the chambers and some government associations supports you with aids. For example, if that is cost something like 100 euros, you can take this money from the chambers or from the government supports. So do not forget to register your trademark. And in your target markets, you also need to register your trademark. If you are exporting to Iraq or Russia or United States, it's better if you register your trademark. Okay, so you did all these things, and now it comes to forming your export team. So after you finish these states, you need to form an export team or export department. So don't consider it like you don't need to find 2, 3, 4, 5 people in order to create your department. only one person can be your export department. So the important thing is that girl or boy, man or woman is enough to control your export. Is he or is she enough to work in your export department? And sometimes some company owners wants to deal with export by himself or herself. So this is also normal thing. So you don't need to find one person. Of course, you can do your own export control by yourself, but you know you need to be careful about your language skills, marketing skills, financial, logistic controls, etc., etc. If you are doing these things good, you can. It means that your export team has been procured. And now another issue is assignation of customs, consultants, banks, etc. So, as I told you before, in Turkey, you need to work with an official customs consultant. A company cannot do its own official customs responsibilities. So there are some people working in another cities and ports and in other companies. They took a kind of driver license. They have a license in order to follow and handle these official customs things. So working against for the service fee. I mean, you are making a contract with them, and then they're offering you some services. You pay, and then they are following your all customs issues in the ports and in international areas. So you need to find a good consultant who are the experienced in your sector. This is also very important because if you are dealing with textile, that person, that consultant has to be experienced in consultant. If not, you may have some problems during your export. And please don't forget, even you have contract with that consultants, it doesn't mean the responsibility on them. So all the responsibilities on you. The exporter and the company, exporter company is always responsible 100% for all issues in export countries, export processing. So you need to find a good one, don't forget. And the bank. Bank is very important also. You know, we separate export operations into two types. The first is general operation, like logistics and customs regulations, and another is the payment. So payment is different. So if your bank is not good, let's say they are taking 10% of commissions every money transfer, that means that you are sharing your 10% profit with a bank. This is amazing. It's not good. So you need to find your best bank and the best bank liable. I mean, you have to be in good relations with that person. They have to be deal with you in special way, and they have to do not charge very high commissions and costs on you. So it is better to be a good banker, and also they can consult you. They can give you consultation service for these financial issues too. So don't forget to find a good bank in your city, in your company. And another title is arrangement, production, and finance and logistic sources. So after you decide everything and after you settle everything, you need to produce these products within the limit or within the aspects of your customers' needing. And also you need to arrange your financial position, and also you need to arrange your logistics. So let's say if you are going to take your payment later on from your customer, so and if this export is something like $100,000, you have to be as strong to carry this responsibility. So that means that you need to have $100,000 in your pocket first, and then you will produce your goods, and then you will send. So 1 month later, you are going to take your payment. So that means you need to stand strong financially, and you need to anticipate what exactly money you need and what exactly logistic things you need. And if your customer asks you to send the goods by sea, so you need to find a ship and you need to load the products to the ship. Or if they want to load you to truck, you need to find a truck. So these are very important while you're exporting operations. So, and finally, you are ready to make export, and let's do your export. So our final title in this screen is examining the export. So another issue in export module is pricing strategies. So yes, we want to make export and we know our product's cost, but how can we calculate our price? So which price that we can offer to our customers? So there are lots of parameters that you have to be careful while you are proposing export price to your customer. Shortly, I just want to tell you this. You need to first you need to consider about your product's cost. That means the raw material cost of your product. And another is local transport and freight shipment cost. Let's say your customer is asking these products to make you bring to Brazil. So you need to calculate all shipment cost until the goods arrive to Brazil. So please don't forget to calculate your local transport, because let's say you are in London and you are going to ship your products to another port. So you need to calculate the road time and the transport cost between the London and the port. So you need to add also this cost to your price. And of course, you will make some profit, but it depends on your expectation. On which rate you are going to add your profit, 5, 10, 15, 20. So this is also very important. You need to add your profit on the price of the raw material. Another is currency differences. As I mentioned before, if you are living in a different exchange money country, like in Turkey, and if you are doing your export in euro rate or in US dollars rate, you need to be careful on the currency differences. And if you know, if your money is much more less valuable than other currency, you need to pay attention on this information too. So you need to calculate your currency differences, and then you need to add this difference to your price. And customs cost and insurance costs. As I told you, customs. You need to find the guy who is going to deal with your export officially, and then you are going to pay him or pay her some things. And also, you need to pay any other officially to your government. I mean, you need to pay your warehouse services. You need to pay some another services that which port will give you. And finally, the insurance cost. If you are going to make insurance on your products, this is also the cost. So shortly, you have to add all these costs on your price, and then you should offer your price to your company, to your customer. And another very important issue is foreign trade documents. Okay, we have done everything, but which documents we have to prepare? This is one of the most important issue for the companies. And as Chamber, we are always taking their concerns and their questions. They're always calling us and they're always asking what kind of documents they have to prepare. So there are many export documents exist, but we try to choose the most famous and the most important ones in this module. So we can separate the documents issues into 5 main areas. The first one is transportation documents. So you need to prepare some transportation documents while you are making your export. So the first one is bill of lading. Bill of lading is a kind of document that all the product name, details, kilogram informations, customers informations, and about its value and its CBM. You have to put these all informations on the bill of lading, and your transportation company is going to prepare this, and this is the vital document. I must have document. So without bill of lading, you cannot make export. Another is international consignment note, CMR. This is mostly using in road and in the land exports, and also the transportation company will prepare it. And another one's railroad and airway transportation documents. I don't want to make this long, so let's continue with another important documents, the commercial documents. So this is like you are doing business in your own country. So first you need to give them a kind of proposal. So that means pro forma invoice. This is not have to, but pro forma invoice is important. Another is commercial invoice. So commercial invoice has to be documents. That means you cannot make export without commercial invoice, like in your country. So after you execute your export, you need to prepare commercial invoice, and sometimes you need to send commercial invoice to your customer with your goods. And another thing is packing list. This is also must have documents because export countries customs will ask this packing list, because you load hundreds of products into one container, and there are lots of many different products and boxes in the container. So it is not it is impossible to count these all list and then check all the boxes and all the products. So if an exporter gives that packing list to customs officially and to the customer, it's very easy to check, it's very easy to control. This means packing list. And another is weight list. Weight list is a kind of packing list. It doesn't have to be always, but it's one of the documents. Another documents are the official documents. Official documents are different than commercial and transporting documents. It depends on the country's needings and your importer needings. I mean, some of countries are asking for certificate of origin, some of them are not, or there are some health certificates, some physiotherapy certificates, or animal certificates, etc. It depends on the goods you export, and it depends on your buyer's needings and its customs regulations. So you have to also prepare these certificates if they need. Another is financial documents. You need to prepare bond and bill of exchange in order to claim your payment from the bank. And some of them are using an accredited letter of credit payments. So we are going to evaluate these issues later on. Another is insurance documents. If your customer is asking for insurance, of course you need to prepare that kind of insurance policy and insurance certificates. And this is, for me, is the most important issue in export: payment methods and delivery methods. Let's start the payment methods that you can use in your export. Mainly, we can say cash in advance, open account, cash against goods, documentary collections, and letter of credit, and others. Of course, this list is continuing over time, but as far as I said, we are trying to use the most common methods in the world. So you always become face to face with these payment terms in the future. So in the graphic under the screen, you see it shows the advantages and the disadvantages of the being exported and imported within these payment terms. Let's check. You are an exporter and you are selling goods, and which one is the best payment term for you as an exporter? So as you see at the right of the screen, it says most secure. So what is this? Cash in advance. That means you produce your money, you produce your goods, or before you produce your goods, you take your money from the customer and then you send the goods. This is the most secure and guaranteed way for exporter. But let's check for the importer. But they say cash in advance is the least secure payment. So as an exporter, please try to choose the best payment option for yourself. Of course, importers are going to push you to put you in their side. But as an exporter, you need to choose the best way about your payment terms. So cash in advance is the best way for an exporter. If not, letter of credits, because letter of credits means the banks gives you guarantee for the payment. Even your customer don't pay you. So that means his bank or her bank is going to pay you. So that means that you don't have any risk to take your money. Another one is documentary collections. Another is open account and consignment. So open account and consignment is, you know, especially open account is a big problem. If you do not trust your customer or if you are working in the first time, please and please do not work with them with open account and cash against goods. So cash against goods also means when your goods arrive there, it means that you are going to get your payment. So I'm asking you, what if you send the goods to your customer but they are not paying you? Who will make your compensate? So no one. So be careful for these payment options also. Another important thing is export is types of delivery. So I want to tell you this first about Incoterms 2010. So Incoterms is a kind of association, kind of chamber in the world that all countries are consisting in this organization, and then they put together many years ago. Let me give you the time. Okay, first they become together at 1936 by the ICC, and then they try to make some standards on the types of delivery. So and then it's going to be developed, and finally in the 2010, all the parties has decided some standards on this issue. So that means Incoterms 2010, and all the countries in the world are using these delivery types. Let's talk some about these delivery terms. So there are also lots of another delivery types, but we are trying to tell you the most common ones and the most ones that we are going to become face to face. So the common one first is delivered at terminal. So the short one is DAT, and another is delivery duty paid DDP and exports. These three ones are very common in the world, and also these ones can be used for sea transportation and the land transportation. So if somebody tell you that I want my goods with DAT, I mean delivered at terminal, you can use this for seaport, and also you can use this land transportation. So when we check the sea transportation delivery types, we say free alongside ship, free on board, cost and freight, cost, insurance, and freight. So one of the most using in the world is within these types of delivery, free on board, see cost and freight, and cost, insurance, and freight. So I'm sure that you at least one you heard that CFR or CIF or FOB. So these are very common using in the world, and I'm sure that if you want to make an export, you are going to use one of these types. And let's check the land transportation. Mainly there are 4 types: DAP, FCA, CPT, CIP. So if you are going to make your export with transportation on the land, on the highways, roads, you need to use these delivery types. So there is also a graphic is showing you, and if you are an exporter and if you are sending some goods, there are lots of delivery types, and which are the under control of seller and the buyer. So you can also check this graphic in order to choose the best option for your export. But shortly, I want to give you these ones. Export means you sell the goods in your factory and you do not have to deliver the goods to another place. So customer has to come to your factory or your place, and he has to, and they have to take the goods, and then they can go. This is the most basic export delivery type. Another is, it depends on the sea or land transportation, but FOB, and the FOB equals with VSA in the land transportation and the sea transportation. FOB means you are sending the goods by sea. The only thing that you have to do, you should carry the goods from your factory or from your place or from your warehouse to the port. And after that, your responsibility is finished. So you will carry the goods to port and you handle the customs issues, and then it's finished. So customer has to take care of the rest. So let's say about the CFR and CIF. The only difference between is insurance. If you make insurance to your goods, this is CIF. If not, it is CFR. So this is the most longest one for an exporter. I mean, you need to deal with everything and all the thing for this export. You have to carry all the goods to your importers, to your customer's port, or to your customer's place. So it means that you have to deal with the cost of the freight, and you have to be careful that the goods will not damage on the way. So the actual part of the land transportation is CPT and CIP. And also, I want to give you that some terms that you can become face to face during the exports. Obviously, I cannot tell you everything, but these terms are always using in international trade, especially for the transportation. They are shortly CARNET, Certificate of Conformity, Customs Bonded Warehouse, Foreign Trade Zones, Free In, Free Out, Freight Forwarder, RORO, ATA, and ETD, FCL and LCL, demurrage, IMCO charge, partial shipment, ramp, seal, volumetric, weight, etc., etc. So I want you to control and check these definitions, because these are also shortage of some important things in international trade. I just want to tell you, for example, foreign trade zone means that this is kind of customs area, and you can leave your goods in these zones, and they are not going to be charged tax. So this is also very useful in international trade. Or, so what is ETA and ETD? This means estimated time arrive and estimated time departure. So your customers are always asking for these information. They can ask you what is the ETA and what is the time for ETD. So you have to give these informations. And let's say about FCL or LCL, that means FCL, full container loading, another is partial shipment loading. So these things are very important for international trade. You can check all of them later on. And let's continue our another important issue, to prepare contract. So Why contract is important? Because you know you are going to have a proof in your hand if any problem occurred in your export. So for this, in order to arrange this, you need to know what are your risks and how you should prepare your contract. We know that most of companies are not doing this, but it is very important. So shortly, I just want to tell you what are the risks. You have misunderstanding risk, violation of liability risk, poor quality, non-payment, transport risk, privacy, financial, legal, administrative risks, deadlock risks. So you have to be careful on these all risks. And within the light of these elements, you need to prepare a contract. So I just also want to tell you this. There is an accepted international law that we call it Vienna Sales Convention. This is like Incoterms. Most of the countries are becoming together and they decide some sales elements, some important articles. And if companies are in different countries conflict on some matters, they are they're applying that convention. So this is United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods. So you need to be careful while you are preparing your contracts, and then don't forget you have a door to knock if you have a problem in your export business. So I just want to give you an statistics. The Convention on the International Sale of Goods, which is the CISG, plays an important role in globalization of contract. For example, as of May 2006, 85 states have adopted the CISG, and more than 4,500 cases worldwide have addressed its applications. So you see, so this is a very important issue. And if we check the countries that 4,500 inside of this number, which are the countries? You see 2,534, China 432, Russian, Netherlands, Switzerland, and United States. So there are lots of countries and companies are approaching this organization to solve their problems. So as you see, these are the elements of contracts. You need to be careful to prepare your contracts on these elements. So you need to put all these informations on your contracts while you are signing that kind of contract with your customers or with your suppliers. So you should be clearly indicate identities of parties, date and location, subject and expected benefits, value and the currency, delivery type, payment method, violation of the convention, warranties, ownership records, force majeure, unexpected holds, intellectual properties, notifications, and it's going like this. So if you indicate all these elements in your contracts, that means that you are going to be very comfortable in your trading with these companies. So please pay attention to these things in your contracts. So, there are some important documents that I told you. So one of these is pro forma invoice. Pro forma invoice sometimes is accepted as a contract. I mean, you don't have to make a separate contract in your exports. Sometimes pro forma invoice is accepted like a contract. If you have one time if you have a problem one day, you can use your pro forma invoice as a contract. So on the contract, you need to be so on the pro forma invoice, you need to indicate these details on pro forma invoice, like the address and the name of the seller and buyer, date, and the delivered types, and loading date, currency, your goods definition, quantity, price, weight, and all the costs. And you also put your special rules if you need, and you have to put the HS code. You have to say the origins of the products, etc., etc., and sign. So when you put these informations on your pro forma invoice, it's going to be very comfortable that you are going to have, and you will not have a problem in future. So our another main title is competitive intelligence and target markets. I'm sure that you're asking, what is about Santuzu? So, you know, Santuzu is a kind of big warrior, and he has got really good books, and you know, he's a very known person in the world that is a good strategist in the war, in the warfare. So, in this era today, international trade is a kind of war, and you need to be yourself, but it's not enough. You also need to know your opponent. So as he said, as you see in the screen, know yourself, know your opponent, know the area, and get out of all battles. The main thing is to win without fighting. To cope with competition has become a being or not to be issue. So you need to know yourself and your opponent, and then that means you will have some advantages during your trade in the world. So this is why we are paying much attention to this issue. So some of the other things we just understand, and we need to understand this commerce in the world now. It's very hyper competitive. You know, everybody can make export to every place, and I'm sure that you are going to find these opponents in your way. So today we are ordering a product from another country, let's say China or AliExpress.com or eBay. That product is arriving to me in a couple of days. So that means you have lots of opponents in the world. So you need to be ready for this hyper competitive competition. So in order to emphasize this importance to you, I just tell you that the information stored in the world is growing 4 times faster than the world economy. So you see, the information is very important issue today's world. The amount of information stored in 2013 was around 1,200 exabytes. So that means every day people are producing something. There are lots of information exist, and it's growing manically day by day. So the information in the world is very important, and you need information. You need where are your customers. You need what they want. So these are all informations, and you need to find them. So this is why hyper competition is very important, and that will affect you. So strategic and tactical decisions can be made on the basis of developments throughout the world through the establishment and operation of international marketing, commercial information, and intelligence system, and sustainability and determination of target markets, measuring performance in existing markets and achieving sustainable profitability based on information based in foreign trade. So foreign trade is a thing that information-based thing. So you need to be careful for the information things. So after you know all these things, as I told you before, you need to find your target market. So how come? Most of the people are asking us how we can find the market. There are many different types to find markets, but we are going to tell you especially some things. So before this, what kind of things you have to be careful on the target market search? You should be careful if it is sustainable, profitable export, and you need to find growing markets, profitable markets, competitive markets, and easy to enter markets. I mean, these parameters are very important, because if you don't pay attention, that means that you will struggle while you are export. And another thing is there has to be some assignations. I mean, you need to use these sources like HS code, growing market, competitors, and market with growth trends. So these are also the parameters that you have to be carry, because let's show you in here. So what is HS code? So HS code is harmonized system. This is using in all countries, and shortly we say HS code. So this is a kind of identification number of your product. Every product in the world has to take this HS code. So shortly, this is a multi-purpose international product nomenclature developed by the World Customs Organization. And there are something like 5,000 different HS codes in the commodity groups. So normally it is consisting with 12 digits number, but I don't want to bother you with long informations. But please know that you have a kind of HS code, and you need to find what's the HS code of your product. So in order to understand, I can give you the China Commodities web page. This is the Ministry of Trade of China. I use this website because when you write down your product name under this China Commodities searching line, if you say computer, this website is going to give you the computer HS codes. So what, maybe you can ask why China? You know, one of the biggest foreign market is China, both in export and import. So I think if China don't know it, no one knows this, you know. So they export and import every product. So it's very easy to assignate your product's HS code from this website. You can try. And after that, you need to search for the market. But how come? You see, I put you some sources. The most source in this area is the trademap.org. This is the World Trade Center's website, and all countries use this because every year all country has to declare it is foreign trade numbers, both in export and import ways. So these countries are declaring their numbers to the World Trade Center. So World Trade Center is also the United Nations organization. So they all countries are connected to each other on the system. So as you see, if you click on trademap.org, you will see a searching page. The first one is the product, other one is the country. So you can make search for product or country. So after you determine your HS code, you can write down your HS code, and then you can choose it, and then you click on search. So you will see some statics on your screen, and then you can start to evaluate. So if you want to consider all of these different parameters and different things in your decision-making stage, you can create a kind of Excel file, and then you can copy all these informations on the Excel, and with a little Excel knowledge, you can make some formulations, and then you can see every country's performance for each parameter. I mean, what are the parameters? Look, the first is your customer's country, how many US dollars annually this product is being imported to this country, or how many quantity or how many kilograms are being imported to your target market, and what is the price, and what are the last 1 year and last 5 years growing performance. So what is the applied customs, taxes, tariff on this product? So these all parameters are very important while you are taking decision. So in order to put them together, you can use Excel, and you can create that kind of Excel file. I'm always doing this, and it's very beneficial. I suggest you to do this. You see, these are the parameters that you have to be careful. So of course, you can expand these parameters, but in our studies, we are using these parameters mostly. And also you can make some graphics in order to see which performances they have. And then you can score them, and then you can easily choose which are the countries, best countries for you. And also you can move on like this. After you also evaluate the parameters, you can create a kind of map, you can create a kind of graphic, and then you can show graphically, you can see graphically which are the important countries. These are our Chambers and myself special study for some sectors and some companies. I'm giving these informations from our works, from our studies. If you want, you can also contact with us in order to take these studies, and in order to evaluate, we can send you. Also, you can join our website and you can obtain these works on this. And one of the last title is the International Free Trade Agreement. After we recognize every parameter and everything, you have to check this trade agreement, because this is very useful things for in countries trading. If you click on this website, World Trade Organization website, you will see there are some free trade agreements between countries. First, let's check the map. As the map you see, look, this shows the Turkey's agreements with other countries. You know, the red ones, that we are special trade agreement with these countries like European Union, Brazil, etc. So free trade agreements give some opportunities and advantages for both countries in export and import operations. I mean, if your country has got free trade agreement with with another country, that means your customer is going to buy your product without tax, or not only tax, maybe for the document advantages. Maybe you have some different advantages, so you need to check. It's better if you check this list and if you check this map. So finally, I just want to give you a short cases. And the first case of our good practice is coming from Turkey and Georgia. So I just want to give you this. Mr. Georgi is a Georgian plastic scraps exporter. Due to his sector dynamics, he needs to collect these bottles with advance payment in his territory, but lack of the capital, he sometimes got some problems during that collection phase. So his customer, a Turkish company, asked from him to ship 4 container scraps with LC payment terms. But as I told you, he needs that money because he needs to buy the raw materials by cash in his country. So that amount is kindly 20,000 euros. This is really, really big amount for this Georgian company. And then he asked for 80% deposit and 20% payment when goods arrive to Turkey, to his customer. After some evaluations and some, negotiations, Turkish company has accepted. So Georgian company now doesn't have to waste his money, doesn't have to be 20,000 euros in his pocket. So after he take 80% of the cost from the Turkish company, he gathered his raw materials and then he sent it to Turkey, and finally he took 20% of the money. So in this scenario, all the parts are satisfied and everything is good. But when we check this from the Turkish side, it's not very good, because Turkish company make prepayment and they paid 80% of the money. So this is also a different thing. But in our good practice, Georgian company is considered a good practice. And finally, let's check the bad practice. So this is about logistic company because you need to work with the quality partners in your business. If not, you have some problems. We are mentioning about Mr. Mehmet from Turkey, and he is an exporter company, personal stuff, and he is selling some products to abroad. But while the operations, uh, he chose very cheap transportation company in order to carry their goods. But due to this low price quality, the transportation company charged his customer too much and charged them too much. So the cost of this export rised too much because of the working with the low quality transportation company. So these samples are really lived samples in the world. So please be careful. You need to find your partners in all sections of your export in quality ways. If not, you can have some problems. Oh, so it takes something like 14 minutes. I'm sorry for the long presentation. So I'm thanking all the participators joining us. You always contact with us. We are Uşak Chamber of Commerce, and you will find the details, contact details in our project documents. So thank you very much. Have a nice day.